Okay, guys, welcome back to the channel. No, it's not Halloween still, but it is November 2nd as I'm filming this, and that's Day of the Dead. So I went to a party tonight that was, well, costume contest, but I didn't do face paint. I did have to get a skull in there because that's what Day of the Dead's all about. Got my little skull necklace. So wrapping up a whole week of Halloween stuff. Hope you've been enjoying that. And Dave came to town. Remember, he's got a ton of stuff on the personal side, and I've uploaded a few things that showcase the fun we've had, but really wanted to pivot back to the Toronto visit I had, not just the audio show, which I've pretty much uploaded everything on that already, but before the show even started, I went to see Gilbert Yeung at Entracte Audio with George Taylor, and you saw part one that I just released. What I have now in part two is music clips and a few other things that I wanted to share with takeaways for you, because that was probably a lot to take in. Gilbert Yeung does things a lot different than the stereotypical audio designer, not just in aesthetics, but if you heard, he believes in a lot of customization of his products now, allowing you even tube simulators, damping factor corrector, adjustable gain on an amplifier. Now, that's nothing to overlook. Let me tell you something. A lot of people, arbitrarily, they live by these brand names. Oh, this brand is good. This brand is good. Put them together. They're automatically going to be good. Not always, because you have a problem sometimes with a high gain amp, high gain preamp, very efficient speaker. You try to do volume control, and then at 10 o'clock, you're at full volume. You've got almost no control over your volume because you didn't plan out synergy more than just brand names like a lot of people do. You have to understand the gains and all these other things, sensitivity of your speakers. He makes it where you don't have to rebuy anything anymore. You got one of his amps, adjustable gain like that product had. You can now adjust the gain and get more control on your volume. Damping factor. That was, I even have clips where we're testing that in this video. So we tested changing the damping factor, which can impact how much a speaker can react to the amp. And also sometimes even how the speaker reacts to the room. So giving that additional ability to tweak things without having to buy and tweak with cables and other things on your own. Fun to do, and you're going to hear some clips on that. Also, some of the takeaways were his soldering technique. You might think, why would you use so much solder like he was talking about? Now, to be clear, he's talking about on the power delivery side, not at the line where you don't want too much solder being part of the signal path. But on the power delivery side, he does very thick amounts of solder to make total sense with the bus bars and whatnot. And then he also does the damping on top of the aesthetic element of the silicon. Makes total sense. A lot of people, and you've seen it with the Burning, Steve McCormick amps, the Eon Arts amps. A thing that was very noteworthy that I picked up on, a lot of people don't pick up on this, is how much attention is paid to the base of the amp and internal vibrations instead of worrying about everything getting in. All these cones and stands and all that are very helpful for external vibrations. But the transformer in the actual amp or whatever product that he's building, he actually damps at that level with the silicon. It's not just for aesthetic purposes alone. So, and then the biggest thing that he's known for, especially now, is huge amounts of capacitance, both in the signal input, output, and especially allowing you to upgrade with just adding these packs that you buy. And he hasn't found a diminishing return level yet. So that's kind of fun to play with. You don't have to pay for dealer markup and new chassis if you want to try and upgrade. And I've got some video where we did that. In particular, this was the biggest delta that I heard, was testing some of these vintage receivers that George bought for under $100 in some cases. Really cool. Some techniques and other ones. And if you want gauges, forget these Macintosh blue light things, which are tired and old. Get ones that are old but true vintage and useful, like the tuner lights and all the other little gauges that came on these receivers from back in the 70s and the 80s. They are cool, and they would still look good today on the shelf if you look at some of them I filmed. So I'm going to show you a little bit of that missed out on the part one. And then he mods them with those the capacitance packs alone. And we did an A/B with it and without it. And I guarantee you, a lot of people taking one of those vintage receivers with those power capacitance packs added, a lot of people would be fooled that this is not a 1970, receiver amp powering the speakers. Sounded really good. And the delta was definitely noticeable. Probably the biggest delta of anything I heard, whether it was the damping factor or some of the other things we did. So wanted to give you this video to kind of put some music clips and some actual stuff you could, whatever you can hear through a YouTube video as much as you can, but give you a little bit more in depth. As we go along, I'll be updating, Angelo Gilbert Yeung is going to be updating you on the subwoofer amp build. He said he's going to do that on his Facebook page. I'll probably just do it for my members and then leave it for the public to see it as a finished product. So if you want to be surprised at the end what we're doing, just stay tuned. I'll have an update. The members or follow Angelo Gilbert Yeung on Facebook, and you'll get some periodic updates. But this is going to be a super cool amp. Can't wait. All right, guys, enjoy this part 2. All right, real quick, I forgot to showcase this. This was a really treat for me to see some of these vintage pieces that were the bee's knees back when, at least I was a kid. We all had these kind of receiver type things. Tuners you never see as part of a piece nowadays. Loudness buttons, and in some cases EQs. Gauges were commonplace with both the tuner and sometimes in the amplifier section. So, and here's even the EQs, more primitive side that may have given EQ a bad name back in the day, but this was really cool. One of my favorites. I think I own one similar to this Techniques here. But George, you were saying these aren't even for sale, but you upgraded them to showcase what can be done. And these are part of your collection, right?
They are part of my collection. And I mean, the first, the one that kicked it all off was this Pioneer. I mean, back in the day, I could afford, this is a Pioneer SX750, and that was for me and my high school buddies. This was the cat's ass because it had 50 watts per channel.
Okay.
Right now, we know we've done a couple. Angelo Gilbert and I have done a couple videos on this stuff, and we now know what 50 watts per channel can mean.
Right. Back then, they kind of a little.
But back then, that was 50 watts a channel was a benchmark. If you had it, you were cool. So, I found this one used around at a fairly good price. But all of these are here for a purpose. I mean, these are actually not bad sounding amplifiers. They stand the test of time. If you get one in good shape, they're reasonable sounding. But the real key is that, if you let me turn this one around here, you'll see that on the back we've got a power con connector, a twist lock connector, and what we can do is we can plug in this box. Now this is called an FCF.
Okay.
Power supply module. And what this does is I plug this in here, and that basically quadruples, or in some case quintuples, the amount of capacitance available for the power supply in here to use. Right. And that means a huge big difference in the sound. It's plug and play. It's actually, if we get time, we should probably plug one in and do it, because you can hear right away. You can hear the sonic effect right away. There's more presence. There's more depth in the sound stage. There's better imaging and all the things that you would talk. It again, it doesn't change the sound of the amplifier. None of these upgrades change the sound of the amplifier, but they make the amplifier operate at a much higher level. So the good things they're doing become that much better.
And I guess the theory being is that a lot of power supplies are built to basically the minimum standard of what's needed to run the equipment. And what you're doing is with some of these add-ons like the extra capacitance and the better quality capacitors and the bus bars and all that stuff, you're giving it that juice where everything performs better. Am I summarizing it?
Yep, that's about it. And when they built those models back then, like you said, they have to build a price point. They have to compete against each other really tightly. So what I'm doing is unleash the potential,
right,
by giving them what they lack when they first built.
If budget was not a consideration, and technology and things you've learned over the years, they this was a different year, several decades back, so.
And the other thing too is that capacitors now are smaller. For the same size capacitors, they're much smaller. They're much less expensive, so it becomes economically possible to do something like this. Right?
That's
so
true.
You've got the room to do it in a small package, and it doesn't break the bank, and it does make a real big difference.
And you actually kind of mix and match different types of capacitors, is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. So that's part of the secret sauce.
Well, it's part of the secret sauce. I mean, there's 2 or 3 different types, and I mean, one type of capacitor is in there to sort of release energy, and the other 2 are to draw energy back in so that there's energy to release. It's a bit of a recipe.
Part of an art to the science, yeah. And I think you had a piece. We didn't even show this earlier with the silicon over here. I wanted to show this one is packed in there pretty good, huh?
Yep, that's actually another upgrade module. Now that, let me see, is it in here? Oh yeah. This is actually kind of cool. This is also a Blue Circle legacy piece. This is a BC 509 DAC. Okay, which would have retailed for $1,200. Yeah, about $1,200.
Nice.
Back in the day. It's a good sounding DAC, fairly inexpensive, but what we have here is 1.5 farads or 1.5 million microfarads of capacitance. So we now have a jack on the back of this. And we plug that into the back, and now we've got a lot of extra power supply.
Did you add the USB, or did you have it way back in the day?
It was original.
That was there. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, so you were doing USB.
Yep. So plug it into there, and now you have.
Wow. Even for a DAC, this much capacity.
Yeah. And
just like this cable.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And actually, there's so much capacitance in that. No.
Yeah, it's 2 turn on.
Wow.
It's now on.
That's crazy. It's still got so much stored energy. There's no.
Well, I unplugged it 10 o'clock this morning, and now it's what?
Wow.
10 hours.
That's crazy.
10 hours ago.
Yeah, that's insane. Now, so for people saying, some people are obviously going to say, why would you need that much for a DAC in the power supply? Is this would this be the normal upgrade path, or?
There's not really a normal upgrade path. I mean, to be quite honest,
or would you go with a smaller one first?
You could go with a smaller one first. I mean, the one over there with 500,000 microfarads in it would be a nice upgrade for that. But that's kind of a. You
haven't reached the point of diminishing returns yet. Okay.
That's the funny thing. You could plug the 3.6 farad one into it.
Interesting.
And you would hear a difference. Like, it's funny because there have been a few products that have come through here, a few upgrade products that have come through that they are, again, I hate this word.
Entry level.
They're entry level. Mm-hmm. I mean, the preamp that's sitting right there, the C310, that's the entry level preamp, right? Well, I put half a farad on it last night, and it sounded better. And I put, then I went, if half a farad sounds like that, let's put 3.6 on it. And I had it in the room. I had it in the testing room with the ATC speakers. It kicks ass. It's
really
unbelievable.
Okay.
When you have 100 farad, you can try.
Yeah.
100 farad.
Oh, wow.
Farads, yeah.
So that basically then you've got quasi battery supply. You don't even need to plug it in.
Now the problem is when you get to something like 100 farads, you do hear an improvement, but I have a funny feeling that there is a little bit of a diminishing return in terms of the components need to be better to unlock the true potential of what that 100 farads will do. But I mean, having said that, last year we had the AG 2022 integrated amplifier at the Toronto Audio Fest, and it's basically the guts of the i802 amplifier, sort of, not exactly, and we added 75 farads of capacitance to that in a live demonstration, and it just kept getting better.
Interesting.
And better and better and better. There's actually a really good review on it from Soundstage did that review, right?
Yep.
Soundstage did a review on that room last year, and it just kept improving and improving and improving and improving. So,
Well, I do have to make one correction.
what's that?
37.5.
Oh, I thought it was okay.
It's half.
I saw it.
It's only 1 year past. It doesn't mean it can double.
Well, everything else is double.
Yeah.
I wouldn't that double.
Well, I'm old school.
Yeah.
I didn't.
I get double wrinkles every year, so
Well,
yeah.
that's okay.
37. Actually,
37.5.
wasn't it almost 30? Wasn't it closer to 38?
It's actually 37.5. You exactly make it double.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I give you credit on that.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking in stereo, so 2 channels.
All right.
Sorry, 37.5 hertz. My mistake.
Now, let me ask you, this was power capacitance, right? But you were using the...
This is input stage capacitor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so it still lit
it's in the same box.
It
as
still
that
lit the
SCF.
light, okay.
Yeah. But yeah.
Because you use the power cons for the power, and you use the XLRs for the
Line
sig.
stage.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense. And about how much are these upgrade capacitance packs?
I want to say, quick conversion says somewhere
18
between 1800
US,
yeah.
yeah.
1800
Okay.
US, yeah.
So very reasonable versus having to buy a whole new product.
Well, and here's the thing: if you kind of like the sound, but you just want that to be better,
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
It's
And easy to A/B.
yeah,
And so many things are difficult. You have to take the component out, rehook up all. Here, you just
yeah.
plug it in, plug it out.
Yeah.
Hot swap. You can
Hot
actually
swap.
hot swap.
When
If
it's
you know-
playing, okay.
If you know what to do, hot swap is actually safe.
Okay. Cool.
So when George do the demo for the vintage gear, it can hot swap
Okay.
in and out.
Yeah, I'll probably put music clips in a separate video because of copyright and stuff, but we've already listened to this system. We're going to listen to this one next. It was very impressive hearing the difference of the damping factor changing on this funky amp where you have the dials. And it's much more advanced than I thought it would be in terms of, well, I'd say more practical than I thought it would be, because so many times on different types of music, people complain about their system having certain bass either deficiencies or too dry, and certain music is conducive to different, what I've kind of learned here, different damping factors. And this is almost a quasi room correction for bass in the way it helps, well, changes how your driver is responding to the amplification. And so sometimes the most low distortion drivers aren't the most pleasing to our ears, and conversely, the most sloppy of drivers, the highest distortion isn't either. Having the ability to dial in between those two extremes is very valuable, I think. So we're going to hear a little bit more of the variability on his preamp next. So we're going to set up a listening chair, and I'll put that in a separate video.